Boy, it can be really intimidating to think about hunting public land where there's a lot of hunting pressure, especially maybe taking a week of vacation or spending your weekends hunting public land, maybe in a state far away. But you can do this, and I've done it. I've done 35 hunts in 13 states over the years. You may have seen that I've written over 200 magazine articles about the subject of public land whitetails. I literally wrote the book on public land whitetail hunting. I've had some amazing successes and some crushing failures, and through it all, win or lose, I've learned a lot, and I would like to share 10 of my top tips for public land hunting in this video. And I'm sure you're going to get some helpful things out of it, so let's get started. The first thing is that scouting starts from home. Obviously, you've got to spend some time deciding where you're going to go. Pick a piece of property or two in a state that you're going to go to. You got to get a tag and so forth. But then from that point, you're going to start your scouting online through Google Earth, through a mapping system, an app like OnX, Base Maps, Hunt Stand. You got the idea. You're going to go through and mark spots. You're going to zoom in on the public land that you're going to hunt. And you're going to look for areas where you think they might be bedding areas, where the deer might be feeding. Where do you think the does will be? Are the deer leaving the property to feed in the crop fields? These are all things that you're going to look at and try to find before you ever leave, and drop some pins on them, and then you're going to look at them when you get there and you get your boots on the ground and you go in person. Number two is you're going to go there. When you arrive, you're going to scout, and it's really good if you can go before you actually go to hunt. If it's not too far away, or maybe you can take a long weekend and go look it over and eliminate some areas and add some areas, but you got to get those boots on the ground. When you arrive to hunt, the first thing you want to do is really work it out and scout it and figure out where the travel patterns are. If you're going on a rut hunt, you need to know where the does are. You need to know where the funnels and pinch points are. Those are things that you can start by finding in a mapping situation, but you really have to get there and find out for sure. And you're going to put your trail cameras up and really scout it out. And one of the most important things to remember, and a mistake that I made early on when I started doing this, and I see other people making all the time, is just don't get in a stand too early. You get there, you walk into an area and it's all torn up with rubs and scrapes, and you're just like, I got to get a stand up and start hunting. But that can be a mistake. It's often better off to really learn the property better, and so you have a backup plan. What if that spot doesn't pan out? Or what if you put up a stand and hunt there in the evening? It's not a good morning spot. What are you going to do in the morning? You don't have a stand. So it's easy to get caught up in the enthusiasm of finding a bunch of sign or seeing a big buck or something like that. Make sure you really learn the property before you actually start to hunt. And often I found myself in situations where I'm going to put up what I call an observation stand. For example, I'm going to put up a stand in an area where I might not be right on top of where I expect a deer to be, but where I can see a larger area. Maybe the field that they're feeding in, maybe an open area where they're crossing to get to from point A to point B. But an observation stand might be your best stand for your first evening and morning to try to figure out where the deer are moving to. If you're not going to be in a stand, maybe spend your first evening glassing, driving around as much as you can, or get on a high point and use a spotting scope and binoculars and just try to help determine the patterns that the deer are using. This first 2 points can make or break your hunt. I can't overstress the importance of learning the deer movements before you actually go put up your stands and get in a stand. Number 3 pertains to going on a rut hunt, which is what most people do, and that is this: find the does and you'll find the bucks. Don't overlook where the does are bedding, where the does are feeding, how the does are traveling to get from point A to point B. If you're on a rut hunt, you need to know where the does are, because the bucks know where they are, and that's where they're going to be focusing their attention. Find the does and you'll find the bucks. Number 4 is you're not just going to pattern the deer, you're going to pattern the other hunters as well. You have to understand hunting pressure and how it works on the property, who else is there, where they're hunting, where they're hanging stands, and so forth. Most public land situations, you're going to be faced with a situation where you're not the only one hunting the property. So pattern the other hunters. And in relation to that, I'll call it 4A. A lot of times people think you just got to go deep and get as far away from the other hunters as you can, and sometimes that's the case, but often the other hunters are overlooking some of the opportunities that might be on the edges of the property. In a lot of situations in the Midwest, the deer may be bedding on the public land but traveling outside the public land to feed. So keep that in mind. Sometimes people are walking past good hunting opportunities by trying to go deep into public land. So be aware of hunting the entire property and learning all of the land that's available to you. One of the questions that you'll have to answer for yourself while you're on this hunt is, should I hunt all day? Should I stay and stand from before daylight to after dark? I'll tell you that in my experience that it's a rare situation where that's actually the best strategy on a hunt far from home, and here's why. Primarily in the mornings, you're hunting the bedding areas where the deer are moving to bedding, and in the evenings, you're hunting the food areas, and you're hunting trails in between, and they're not always the same trails. So I'm speaking in general terms here, but in most cases, it's not the best thing to hunt all day in one stand, because it's probably not going to be the best stand for both morning and evening and during midday. There are exceptions to this, but another thing to keep in mind is that over the years that I've done this, I've learned that my time in the middle of the day is better spent scouting. Remember, if you're on a hunt where you have a limited time to hunt, you have to keep taking in information all the time. You don't have a whole season to do this. You've got a limited time, so you got to keep gathering information, and one of the most important ways to do that is with trail cameras. So I've usually spent the majority of my time during the day checking trail cameras and analyzing deer movement and things like that. Okay, that has changed and evolved over the years as more cell cameras have become available, and we don't actually have to go into the cameras and pull the cards and check them. So over time, this has evolved as with the advent of cell cameras, so I don't have to go pull cards anymore, but I still feel like the middle part of the day is probably better spent gathering information than it is sitting in a stand most of the time. Number 7 is that you got to be mobile, you got to hunt aggressively, you got to be flexible, you got to move on the fly all the time. This is one of the most important aspects to being successful, is being able to change quickly and understanding that you got a limited time to get things done, so you have to move and hunt super aggressively, okay? You hear all the time about people that have properties where they have inviolate areas or sanctuaries, so to speak, where you just never go into. You know, there just aren't anything like that on public land. You have to hunt aggressively. You've got to go where you need to go. If you see a buck using a trail over here and then another buck using a trail and they're out of range, then take the stand down and get over there. You just have to move more aggressively and hunt in a completely different way than you would if you were a private property owner and hunting closer to home. Hunt aggressively, move quickly, and keep adjusting on the fly. That's the most important part of this tip. You got to go prepared for any weather. You just don't know, no matter where you're going. I've been in Kansas when I'm hunting in 70 degrees every day during the rut, and I've also been in the exact same property where I've had snow and 20 degrees when I got up in the morning. So you got to go prepared for any weather. You got to expect nature to throw anything at you, which means you got to dress in layers. It can change during the day. You can wear something different in the morning and something different in the evening. You got to be able to have the right clothing. You got to have good rain gear. Be prepared for any kind of weather, and that's especially true with your clothing. Number 9 is you got to manage your expectations. A lot of people draw a tag in Iowa or Kansas, or go to Missouri or North Dakota or some of these destination places where people love to go hunt whitetails. You see people killing big whitetails on TV, and they have overly optimistic expectations. You know what? It's hard to kill a really big buck if you've got the whole season to pattern him and do it. If you only got a week or 10 days, maybe a week with 2 weekends or whatever, it's really tough to kill a big buck. You pretty much have to put yourself in the right place at the right time and hope for the best. Now, I've been successful about 30% of the time, and my standards have always been I would like to shoot a 3.5-year-old buck, and sometimes I don't, sometimes I do. A couple times I've shot some real dandies, but the most important thing is just to go in with an open mind and take what the hunt gives you. In fact, the first time you go to a new property, it might not be a bad idea to just go there and not expect to shoot a deer, and just have your expectations really low and say to yourself, I'm just going to learn as much as I can about hunting public land, about hunting this particular property, and about hunting away from home, and just say to yourself, whatever comes is whatever comes, but I'm just going to look at this one as a learning experience, and then if I go back there again, I'll have that much better opportunity because of the knowledge that I'll have gained. And then if you do shoot a buck, you're that much farther ahead. So don't have too much high expectations for the first time you go to a new place. And number 10 is just have fun with it. Enjoy yourself, enjoy the whole process, and just, you love to deer hunt or you wouldn't even be considering this. So from the beginning, when you're choosing the property, to the point where you're getting there, and when you're hunting and when you're coming home, just take your time and enjoy the process and just have fun with it. If you don't put too much pressure on yourself, and you really go to just widen your horizons and try something new, your expectations are going to be met because you're just going to have fun and you're not putting too much pressure on yourself. So that's the advice for number 10. Now, each of these 10 tips that I've given you, there are specific videos on this YouTube channel that goes into more details on each of these. So I encourage you to watch the playlist on public land deer hunting strategies that's on this channel. I really want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. I hope it helps you. I'd love it if you would like and subscribe and leave a comment if you would, and we will see you on the next video.